welcome everybody. We are going to be sharing or being on a live called Friday Night Light with Ian with Runkle of the Baileys. Rob will not be here. Myself and Diane will be interpreting in American Sign Language. So, for those of you who know anybody who's hard of hearing or deaf that knows sign language or lip reads very well, needs any kind of assistance with this live, please share it. A lot of people who are deaf or hard of hearing don't get to enjoy these lives. So we're going to share this. Usually I'm running the live, but when Ian hops on, we are going to basically be interpreting for you. He's always fun. He's a little, he's an attorney from Canada. If you don't know who he is, he prematurely went gray, so he's got this gorgeous gray long hair. So that's Mr. Ian. But Sarah, we had a little event to happen. I didn't know I was going to go live because we had an event. And let me get my daughter up here because I need her to share the event. Y'all, it's been a crazy week. It's been a long week. Karen Reed's trial decision, hearing. The judge took it under advisement. I didn't think she was going to rule on it today. If she's smart, she'll think about it. But everybody wanted her to rule on it. Hey, Mary. So, tomorrow night is our Saturday night spilling the tea. Everybody wear your pajamas. Get comfy. I'll be in PJs. Well, something sort of like PJs. And we're just going to, I don't know what I'm going to do yet. We'll figure it out. For those of you who are, what's the word I'm going to look for? Okay, I am going to be following and diving into two trials, both of which are older trials that have popped up again. I'm going to actually really research it. Where's the kitten? She'll bring it to you when she wakes up. Okay, never mind. So anyway, yeah, she already has her mind made up. Today was just a pain in the butt day for her. She didn't want to do it. But, oh, Mary, I love you. You're going to hate me. Mary, I'll put it over here. Everything's here on the end. This is my friend. Y'all remember Mary? Remember my buddy Mary? Say, hey, Maya. They saw you. But anyway, Karen, hello. And of course, Runkle of the Baily is late as usual. Everybody's waiting on Runkle. I'm going to add it to stage. It won't do what I need it to do until he's on. So, I'm waiting for him. So during the down times, I'm going to be really kind of like, what's her name? Mayor. Hello, Ronnie. How are you? How are y'all doing? Hello, everyone. Thank y'all for joining. Oh, I got my puppers at my feet. Got a good friend here being a kind soul. We have our interpreter, Miss Diane, here tonight. There she is. Welcome, Miss Diane. Kidding. Did you get your ice cream, Braxton? I think he did. I know he did, actually. The other night, Diane, Braxton stayed up with us even though he was falling asleep because he's waiting for his mother to give him his ice cream. Let me see the little girl. Show me little girl. And I said, hello, my friend's new puppy. Not so much a puppy.
Yeah, I was going to say she's not so new.
All right, I gotta go. He's got, he's got his fireworks going.
And I have an audio problem. There we go. Let's kill that. Okay. The audio problem was I was listening to myself, and I also have a video problem. Lovely. Sorry, I'm late, folks. I was sitting there. I'm getting ready, and one of the things to do to get ready, because Mrs. Runkle is having a nap, is to feed the little beasts, specifically Zora and Potter. They need food, and so I'm sitting there going, all right, better feed the pups. And Zora was very, very excited to be fed. So, as part of her excitement to be fed, she decided she was going to jump up onto me. She does that sometimes when she's super excited. So she jumps up, and I end up with 2 dog footprints. And those dog footprints were very much sort of chest height. So I was like, if somebody is able to see this at any point, I had better change my shirt, because that would not be ideal. I was just sitting there like, I kind of looked like they were like tassels. So yeah, I was like, shirt change time. Yeah. I also realized that I have forgotten to shave today. I had a day of spending the day inside working from home, and then I was like, yeah, running around trying to get everything done, and then I get on camera and I'm like, oh, I look bad. Oh well, we're just gonna run with it because it's too late now. Now, Ada K is in chat. She is also live interpreting in ASL on her channel, so go check it out. I know there are a couple of people who watch my channel who are in the deaf community. At least one of my sort of long-time followers is in the deaf community. So if you find it more convenient to watch over there, then that is absolutely. It's totally, it's kind of an awesome thing to have available. So that is really really awesome there. Now somebody says, Runkle, do you ever wear short sleeve shirts? Rarely. It's been known to happen, but not often. Not often. So it has happened, but I can't say I'm going to make a habit of it, if that makes any sense. All right. So what is everyone what's everyone, sort of sipping on here today? Hopefully everyone's got a got something, whether that's, alcoholic or not, just a cold drink, cuz it is it's a warm day here. I've got some gin soda fizz in grapefruit, which is lovely. I've also got some cola. Oh, and somebody has a very good question. Somebody has a very good question. Who's the lady with the horns in the thumbnail? So the lady with the horns would be Janet, aka Jeanette Braun. So we like to have fun with her in the thumbnails because I kind of think it annoys her. So we're just gonna do that. Um, it's like I think that this annoys her, so it's going to continue. So anytime you see that kind of weird face, it's probably that. Does Rob still do Friday nights? Rob does Friday nights when he can, but the problem is he's been moving, and you know how moving goes, especially when you're a lawyer. Moving starts out as like a 2-minute project, and I need to sort of shut down that because that's making noises that you can probably hear. Moving starts out as like, all right, everything's in boxes. It'll be super easy. And then like 2 weeks go by and half your stuff is still in boxes. And then 6 months go by and you still have like 3 boxes that you just haven't gotten around to unpacking. So this is especially true because there's Rob combining a household with mischief, and Rob's got like a million tools, and Rob's got all the things. He's got to set up a studio. So Rob is in the middle of chaos because the other thing about law kind of likes to wait in ambush. And we see Rob is listening and unpacking and sorting through a sea of boxes and tools. Law as a profession, it's a weird job because it will like wait in the bushes for you to not be paying him as much attention. And then once you're not paying attention, once you're busy dealing with other things, law will sneak out from the bushes and hit you with a brick. And what I mean by that is that when everything else, that was a weird, when everything else in your life is going haywire, if you're a lawyer, that is when suddenly, like 4 of your clients will get arrested at the same time together. And like 2 of them will have been sleeping with each other at the time and not the 2 that are married. And you're just like, oh my God. Oh no. Or if you do family law, that'll be the time when like, you know, somebody's spouse will be at the airport with the kids trying to take them to, I don't know, Mozambique or somewhere. And you're suddenly needing to file emergency filings to like, no, please don't kidnap the children because there are international trade agreements that say that you cannot do this. And oh my God, please like stop. If you're in estate litigation, it'll be the time when like the sweet old guy that you love doing the will for suddenly, you know, passed, and it turns out that all of his grandkids are like absolute vipers. All of these things, like law just loves to wait in the weeds and ambush you when you are not expecting it. So when Rob is trying to move, that is the time when his career is absolutely going to go insane. So yeah. All right. So we got a whole, oh, this is the other thing. I love this one. And if you're in bankruptcy, it's just SBF. Yeah. And I see, thanks for babysitting us, Gin and Lemonade here in New Jersey. I saw Tilo Agde had a Negroni. I saw people with iced tea. I saw all the things. Oh, and we do have a request for proof of life for Leo. So, all right. Now, there's other jobs that'll do the same, but
LA.
yeah, law has a very special way to do it. The other thing about law is that a lot of lawyers, when you ask them for some human compassion, kind of view that as a weakness to be jumped on. So there's so many people, like every lawyer has a story at some point of like, you're sitting there, you've got a deadline of like 2 weeks, and then we got proof of life for Leo incoming. Excellent. You've got a deadline of like 2 weeks, and then it turns out that like your best friend dies. And so you're like, I want to go to the funeral. I need to do all these things because my best friend died. I'm helping out and whatever. And so you just send the other lawyer an email and you say, hey, can I please just have an extra week? Like, is that okay? This is not like urgent. Are you okay with another week? And they'll send back a message that says, no, the deadline is the deadline. And the reason why is because that lawyer is what you like to call in the legal profession a bag of dicks. That is basically how that goes. And so you'll get that lawyer who just is like, no deal, tough. And every lawyer has a story of being hit with that. Sometimes it's your boss. One junior lawyer I know of left a firm because quite literally her grandmother died. And to put this into context, her grandmother raised her. So she was like raised by this grandmother. It's the person she was closest with in the entire world. And the grandmother died. And so she's like, I need to go to the funeral. And her boss was like, no, we are not approving that. So she left and ended up being a sole practitioner because F that guy. So yeah, don't be that person, by the way. If you're ever a boss or if you're ever a lawyer and you're in the position of saying, hey, I really need to, like somebody says, I really need some consideration for some sort of life emergency. Think real hard about whether or not that is something that, that you like, is this just something you can give? Is this something that you can manage? Because if it is, just freaking do it, I guess is the moral of this story. All right. Now, that is enough ranting about how much being a lawyer can suck. And I say this notwithstanding the fact that I know lots of other jobs have crappy bosses and crappy similar things. Like if you work in food service, there'll be somebody who will absolutely say, hey, listen, nobody else can flip a burger like you can. And therefore, therefore you can't have the weekend off, even though like you need it for cancer treatment or something, right? Yeah, let's have a look at some of the things that are going on. Our first story, I think, is going to be, for my first office job, the policy was you only got time off for immediate family, parent, or sibling, which again is not enough. I mean, it's you wanna have some consideration for that. And sometimes people have close friends who are not like, who might be closer than a family member, but are not necessarily family legally, if that makes sense. All right. Now, I have just been sent a video that I've been told I must play. And I say I'm told I must play. It's not a hardship. It's not like I am super upset by this one. I just have to make sure I'm pulling up the right one. I think this is that's a short video, but let's so we do have proof of life for Leo. Leo is alive and is apparently enjoying playing with the Batman bed. So yeah, that one more time. I love when dogs are full of
That
springs.
is
And
Rob, the other half
yeah,
of
they
Ian, dog.
yeah. This is a good question. It's a sort of recent issue. Is it true from the CCFR post that retired RCMP are going to get commissioned to confiscate AR-15s? Wow, they might want to reconsider tarnishing those veteran plates. There are some retired RCMP. They are trying to bring them in. They basically said we need more people. Okay, we're going to get to a Brady letter in the state of Massachusetts. Some of you already know what I'm talking about, but we should cover some super chats here. Crazy Cat Queen, thank you so much for joining up. Jaded Juror, thank you for the 10 gifted memberships. Lisa, thank you for the new membership. C, thank you for the new membership as well. Amy T, sick and quarantined all week, needing the laughs. Thanks. I'm sorry to hear you're laid up. Phoenix Paw, tip for your pro bono goal from Sweden. Enjoying a mug of tea with some cheap whiskey might sound odd, but it's no weirder than Irish coffee. I'm here for it. If you don't know, my goal here is to have this channel, this thing that I do sometimes, to have this channel be my primary income and to then be able to use this to fund doing law for free. So that is my goal, is just to be a free lawyer, a lawyer that just, I don't charge any money, right? That'll be the things. Just, I'm a lawyer. I don't charge money. Everything I do is free. The problem is that then you have to have a secondary income. But the plan is to have YouTube funding being a charity lawyer. Now, I won't be able to take on a full caseload because a full caseload is like 100 files. And then I'm just like, I don't have time to do this. But I can at least take some, and I can at least take clients that really need it. So that is the goal. Allison, thank you for the 5 gifted memberships. Much appreciated. Katie Cotton says, thanks for tonight, Ian. 1 month after moving, the love of my life for 30 years is in hospital with congestive heart failure. I am so sorry. Prognosis isn't terrible, but it's been a shitty week. I am not unpacking anything. Yep, you do you. You focus on you. I don't mean to bring anyone down. I love y'all. It's okay. You do what you got to do. Canonical Heat, almost 2 years. Almost. Thank you so much, Canonical Heat. And thank you for the 20 gifted memberships. And Pampered Shelley, if we can't have the LNL / or Law and Lumber and Runkle of the Baily team, we appreciate the Law 2 babysitting. Thanks, Runkle. Thank you. CSI Canton, how soon will Ian say something is on fire? No bet. No bet. And I got to roll this. Canonical Heat, thank you so much. Like, subscribe, bell, push them. An angel will get its wings, and Runkle gets closer to his pro bono dreams. Thank you so much. Rainman YYC, thank you for the 5 gifted memberships. Much appreciated. Mackenzie Jabali, thank you for the 10 gifted memberships. Alex Wilson, worked for an attorney one time. They told me the job was as important as my kid. Left 3 weeks later. The number of lawyers who've been told that they need to choose, like, are you going to have a family or are you going to be a lawyer, is so many. So many lawyers have been told that. And yeah. Kat in Virginia, thank you so much. And K-Rab, thank you for the 10 gifted memberships. Much appreciated. A lot of green faces thanks to folks like yourself. All right. So if you've been watching the Karen Reid trial, you are aware of Trooper Proctor. Trooper Proctor fell apart badly on the stand. Trooper Proctor Wednesday is saying, do I have a pro bono case currently? Yes. I cannot really talk about it, I'm afraid, but I do have a pro bono case on the go. Hogue was told, basically, are you going to be a family man or a firm man? And he made the right choice to be a family man. So, all right. So Trooper Proctor, what happens? Well, he gets up on the stand and we find out a whole bunch of things about Trooper Proctor. Some of those we were told in opening because they were so shocking, so horrifying that they made the opening statement, because holy crap. So Trooper Proctor is he was the lead investigator, but he did some interesting things on the case. One of them was that he texted back and said, hey, or he texted friends and said, hey, I'm going through Karen Reed's phone right now, but I haven't found any nudes yet, basically. I'm not quoting, I'm just... And the thing is that this is incredibly disgusting. It's just absolutely effed up. And yeah, Trooper Proctor's behavior he described as unprofessional. And I will say, sure, it is unprofessional in the sense that it is completely inconsistent with continuing to be a member of the... Well, policing isn't really a profession, but yeah, it's just not appropriate at all. And it is terrifying. So what do we have here? Well, it's been widely reported that Trooper Proctor is now the subject of a Brady letter. And what is a Brady letter? Well, because of the Brady case and all of these things, whenever you hear lawyers talk about like a Brady letter or a any of these like name things, if that makes sense, it's always because it's after a case. Right? If I'm making a Stinchcomb application, it's because of a case. So Brady is a case that basically says the prosecution has to turn over evidence that they have in their possession, including evidence of bad conduct from police officers or prosecutors. So what happens... yeah, is it Maryland versus Brady or Brady versus Maryland? I thought it was the second one, but I could be wrong. Oh yeah, it would be Maryland versus Brady. So what happens here? Well, basically they have decided that now Trooper Proctor's actions are sufficiently messed up that they are required to send out a letter to anybody who is involved in a case that has Trooper Proctor in it to say, you need to be aware that Trooper Proctor's got some stain. He's got some he's got some gross on him. Pat says, are you sure you're a lawyer? I'm a Canadian lawyer, first of all, and I don't memorize the U.S. cases. I know it is Brady. And the thing is, it is state versus it is and it isn't. And the reason why I say it is and it isn't is that it's whoever the plaintiff or the state is. And it is Brady versus Maryland. It's whoever's bringing the case. And so where you have you'll have Commonwealth of wherever versus so-and-so, and that's because they're being prosecuted. But in a lot of these cases, it's somebody who is suing the state. So that's why it's like, okay, I don't know. So let's have a look at the letter. I don't want to look up the news reporting of it, because the letter is really the interesting thing. We're going to go directly to the letter. So this is what they're sending out to everyone who... I'm going to small myself a little bit. There we go. This is getting sent out to everyone who is involved in a Proctor case. So, and you'll see it's just to defense counsel. That's because this is a form letter. It's going to go out to lots of different people. So, dear attorney, this letter is to inform you that pursuant to the law, I'm not going to go through the full legal pinpoint, but it's the law. The Norfolk District Attorney's Office is aware of information that in Commonwealth versus Karen Reed, and they give the docket number, Massachusetts State Police Trooper Michael Proctor testified and was subject to cross-examination relating to alleged conflicts of interest, communications with non-involved civilian persons regarding the case, and statements regarding the defendant from which defense counsel argued a bias could be found. Now, you already see the language that they're using. Do you see the language that they're using? Alleged conflicts of interest. So the alleged conflicts of interest are you have direct connections to the, like, to the whole, like, McCabe, Higgins, like that whole family, the Albert McCabe spider network. Communications with non-involved civilian persons regarding the case, and statements regarding the defendant from which defense counsel argued a bias could be found. Let's talk about those statements from which defense counsel argued a bias could be found. He talked about her, and I'm quoting here, leaky balloon knot. He testified, he talked about how he wanted to find her nudes. He talked about how he hoped she would die. If you're saying that you hope that the accused, then I kind of feel like you are past argued a bias could be found and are well into a bias is there, right? It should also be noted that when he's talking about her leaky balloon knot, that is specifically an attack on her disability because she's got Crohn's. So, yeah. In addition, this office is aware that they should fix that. There's a double word there. This office is aware that Trooper Proctor is currently suspended without pay pending an open internal affairs investigation by the Massachusetts State Police. The without pay is a great big flag here. Because you know what it takes to remove a police officer? It takes a lot. It takes a real serious thing for that to for a police officer to get removed. And almost always you will see police officers get suspended with pay, right? It is the most common thing where you see police officers suspended with pay. I've seen police officers who were suspended with pay right up until they went to jail for like decades, right? So the police officer was suspended with pay right up until they go to jail for like 10 years. So that's a big deal to get suspended without pay. Now, that doesn't mean that Trooper Proctor is, guilty of whatever the issue is. He is, there's still a proceeding there, but it is startling when a police officer gets suspended without pay. I also have my own concerns about the suspended with pay thing. In particular, if you look in Canada, to sort of tie this to the whole Canadian thing, if you look in Canada, there have been cases where a police officer has been suspended with pay with respect to very serious allegations like SA allegations or, dealing drugs, as a police officer or these kinds of serious allegations. And they get suspended with pay. And then they're able to drag their case out for years in some cases. years. And so in one case, an officer was suspended with pay for a decade. And here's the other thing. He was suspended with pay for the decade, and he was also working a second job during that time. He was working. So he's earning 2 paychecks. He was laughing about how dumb the investigation was, how much it was really benefiting him that he was getting charged. And this isn't Trooper Proctor. This is a officer out in Ontario. And by the end of it, after he was finally removed from the police force, he retired, because it is really easy to sock a ton of money away from retirement if you're working for 10 years with 2 paychecks, and you could just throw an entire second paycheck into your retirement. Like, I mean, if I could get suspended with pay like that, sign me up, right? Meanwhile, if you're a lawyer and there's a complaint against you, they suspend you and you get nothing, right? You're just screwed. So yeah, the without pay, good, but yeah. Attached is an unofficial transcription of Trooper Proctor's testimony on June 10th and June 12th, 2024. I think it's funny that they didn't actually want to pay for an official transcript. So an unofficial transcription from the court media pool feed obtained from Court TV and Canton Community Television websites. You couldn't even get a full, like, you couldn't even pay for the transcript? Come on, guys. Come on. Yeah, and I'm so yeah. While best efforts were used to achieve accuracy, this is being provided for discovery purposes of the statement made, but is not an official transcript amenable for impeachment purposes. We wouldn't want to make it easy for you to impeach the other side. Also, shout out to Court TV in an official Brady letter. So, yeah. An official transcript has been ordered. Okay, fair enough. They're waiting for it to show up. They didn't want to pay for it on the short time frame. To the extent the testimony references a prior proceeding in text messages from through that proceeding, pursuant to the rules of court, such material is subject to a judicially signed federal court order and is not within the control of the Norfolk District Attorney's Office. Requests for such information should be made to the United States Attorney's Office. And so, yeah, they're saying we don't have that, so you can't have that, so you'll have to go somewhere else. If you have any questions, I may be reached at number. And you might be saying, why is number a form letter? The reason why number is a form letter is that this actually might be, this is going to be something that's going to be sent out from multiple different ADAs. And, you know, because it's not just Lally it's not that Lally is the only ADA in that office, right? He's a fairly senior ADA. He's been at it for more than a decade, but they're going to have other ADAs who might have to send these letters out. And in theory, the ADA might, might have to move on. Shouldn't the ADA have transcripts provided without charge? This depends on jurisdiction. Not all jurisdictions provide free transcripts to the government. Sometimes it goes out of the ADA's budget. You might end up having government offices who fight over budgets, which is why you can get different branches of government charging each other. So not necessarily. Sometimes they do have to justify their spends. They do have to say, yeah, we are spending some money on this one. So yeah, this is having to go out to every case that Trooper Proctor is on. And frankly, I say suspect, but I'm not sure. I suspect that there are a fair number of a fair number of cases where Trooper Proctor might be the lead on the case, and that case might be just going away. I had a case at one point that was a fairly minor case, a fairly minor sort of case, but it was a one police officer case. And it was a case where the police officer, he got caught doing some stuff he shouldn't be doing, but he also caught my client doing things he shouldn't have been doing. And so the case entirely depended on the evidence of this officer. And it wasn't super serious. My client was looking at less than 6 months in jail, some jail, but not all the jail. And I got a letter from the prosecution. Well, I got an email, not like a printed letter. I got an email saying, hey, you may have heard that this officer has had some legal difficulties. We are withdrawing the charges as a result. Some of the other cases that he was involved in, they still proceeded with because they were able to, they had other officers who could corroborate, or they were so serious. Like, you might not drop a murder for like a bad cop, but you might. So there's probably hundreds of these letters going out. The other thing that you might be doing, I started doing this midway through my practice. And what I started doing was basically for every case, I kept a spreadsheet. And what it is it's like, here is the client, here are the officers who are on the file. And the reason why is because if you have a client who's in jail, who got sentenced, sometimes police misconduct can be sufficiently egregious that it might warrant reopening the trial of somebody who is in jail. I will tell a story. It's not really my story. It is a story of a prosecutor. And this is a story of a prosecutor who is entirely unlike Lolly. This is a Canadian prosecutor. So this prosecutor became aware, and I'm not going to say how, but she became aware that a police officer might have trained his police dog to bite people in the crotch.
No.
And why would he have trained the police dog to bite people in the crotch? Well, because he thought it was funny. Now, the problem is that police dogs actually cause a lot of damage when they bite you. If you look at John O'Keefe's injuries, John O'Keefe's injuries are light
Minor.
dog damage.
But minor.
Severe dog damage when police dogs have really gone after people. I will say that I have I worked a case where a police dog bit somebody, and there was a picture of them in the hospital. And in that picture, I'll wave my hands when I'm done. Oh, wait, I think I might still have the content warning. Let me see if I got the content warning. I do have the content warning. There we go. So you're warned. I'll play the content warning end when we're done. So you could see they were doing surgery, and they had opened up this guy's leg, and you could see the bone in the leg, right? You could see the bone, and you could see the tooth marks from the dog in the bone. Because dog injuries can be really, really, really bad. So when you think of what that dog might do to somebody's genitals, that is really horrific, right? Some of those people may have never been right again. And the thing is that some of those people may have been innocent of the crimes, or may have committed crimes that you're just like, because every time somebody hears about police brutality, um, they're always thinking like, oh, well, the guy probably deserved it, because they're thinking of like a mass murderer, or like, the worst, child offender kind of thing. And the thing is that if there's a police officer who's doing this, they're doing it to innocent people, because the cop doesn't always know. And they're doing it to people who will have, if they're saying they're doing it to people with serious charges, I can guarantee they're doing it to people with less serious charges as well. So yeah, the degree of injury there would be pretty severe and could include like complete loss of function. So, and Pat Meacham, I saw the explanation. Thank you so much. All right, let us roll the. That is about the only good thing I got out of. That was the only good suggestion I got out of. He who we won't bother naming, because yeah. So, anyway, to get back to where I was on this story, this prosecutor, when she found that out, she reviewed a ton of this guy's files, of this officer's files. And so, having reviewed the officer's files, she discovered that there was indeed a large number of cases where the dog had bit somebody in the genitals. And so she had a bunch of different choices for what to do there. She could have just ignored it. She could have just said, you know what, it doesn't matter. But what she did was she sent letters, including the people who were in jail serving time, that said, you know what, if you're in jail, and they basically said, file a notice of appeal, because we will consent to your appeal to let you out, because what happened to you is not right and was the result of police misconduct. So she basically said there's a bunch of people who need to, who need some justice. And the thing is even bad people, even people who have actually been convicted of serious crimes, deserve justice too.
Go get this bin.
There's a case I'm going to mention right now. I'm going to mention it in passing because it's got a lot of people upset. There was a police officer who arrested a guy who turned out to have a loaded gun, and that case was thrown out on the basis of racial profiling. If it isn't for cases getting thrown out, then there is no effective remedy. So, yeah. All right. Let us talk about, what do I want to talk about here? Oh, we got some fun things that I didn't get to last week, but let's get to this one because it's kind of lighthearted, and maybe I can beat Legal Vices to it. It'll be like the only Legal Vices will be like, how dare you, Runkle? How dare you beat me to this case? Because this is a maritime law case. Now, I'm just going to note, usually when you hear people talk about maritime law, most of the people talking about maritime law are talking about freemen on the land gibberish, right? But there is actually a thing called maritime law. I actually took a course in maritime law because, maritime law is a whole thing. I want you to look around the room you're in, right? And just look at the stuff you have. You've got, books, you've got electronics, you've got, wallets, you've got whatever. And that stuff probably got to you on a ship. Shipping is incredibly important. It is insanely important. And the other thing you've got to remember is that a lot of stuff, there's a lot of like accidents and stuff that happens in shipping. So a lot of maritime law is related to what happens if there's a shipping accident, a shipping mistake, a shipping something or other. And Thilo Agathe says, maritime law was one of my favorite elective courses in law school. Me too, actually. I didn't expect to like it. I took maritime law in Norway, so I learned Norwegian maritime law. Now, maritime law is it's all about who ends up paying when something goes wrong in shipping. So let's have an example. Let's say I want to ship a sea can, like a sea container, full of computers, right? Full of laptops, right? And so I want to ship that from maybe they were assembled in Taiwan, and I want to ship that to New York in order to sell them there, right? So
80K.
fully reasonable thing to do, right? And so I tell the shipper, hey, these have to be stored below decks, right? So that they'll be protected from sea spray. And they instead, so that shipper then subcontracts with another company and forgets to tell them that they need to put this below decks. So they put my sea can full of computers above decks. And then there's a huge storm. And in the course of the storm, the ship is gonna sink. And you know what happens when a ship is gonna sink, like a big industrial ship? They start throwing crates off the side. So to keep the ship from sinking, they throw my crate of laptops off the side, and it sinks into the ocean and is gone. Poof, gone. So now I'm pissed, right? Because you think of how many laptops you can fit into a shipping container. So many of them, right? So many of them. So now you're in a question of whose insurance company has to pay for this thing, right? And so that's what maritime law deals with a ton of. So now we have a different kind of thing, because this is a lawsuit about OceanGate. OceanGate was the submarine that was going off to look at the Titanic and went from the size of a bus to the size of a pop can in, in a few seconds. That is not a place you want to be. You don't want to be in a tin can when it goes from like giant tin can to pop can. So they're suing. Maritime law is really kind of interesting because it is it's going to have rules for how this is dealt with, even though this is not a common circumstance. And I got to roll this. Marvin CZ saying, please send prayers and / or good thoughts for Dr. Moo. He's dealing with serious medical issues. We're hoping for the mildest diagnosis, although all of the options are pretty bad. I will take a brief interlude to talk about that. Dr. Moo is a longtime viewer of this channel and several other channels. Dr. Moo is very sick. Dr. Moo, we don't know exactly what it is, but Dr. Moo is he's dealing with some serious health conditions. Now, and when I say serious, I mean like life-threatening kind of serious. So Dr. Moo is in a situation where he, is at risk, and he's got kids, he's got So we're all very much hoping for, for Dr. Moo to pull forward. And yeah. All right, let's have a look at this lawsuit here. The other thing I'm going to mention about OceanGate, and it's really weird. This is the one case where like millionaires have cut corners on safety and the millionaires died. Because normally when the millionaires cut corners on safety, it's their workers who die. Yeah. Yeah. I'm worried about Dr. Moo. I really am, and I hope everything works out. But I'm also gonna say as well, the Titanic is already a wreck on the bottom of the ocean. You don't need to add more wrecks to it. So, yeah. All right. So plaintiff's original complaint. Now comes plaintiff Richard Ortoli, plaintiff, as administrator CTA of the estate of Paul and Henri Louis Emile Nargolet. Can we just stop for a second and just say how awesome Paul Henri Louis Emile Nargolet is for a name? That is a great name. I feel like at a certain point, if you just keep adding middle names, it becomes cool. So, yeah. Now, this is a guy who is he was really a fan of the Titanic. He'd been to the Titanic many times. So, did I practice pronouncing that? No. And so he brings this actions against defendant OceanGate, the estate of R.S. Rutsch III, Tony Nissen, Electro Impact Incorporated, Janicki Industries Incorporated, and Hydrospace Group, i.e., everybody who is connected to this. That is the way of things. You just sue everybody who is related to it. The other thing I'm just going to mention is that this case might get legally interesting with respect to jurisdiction. And why is that? Well, because this actually happened in near Canada. So Canada is claiming jurisdiction over some of these things. And the US is claiming jurisdiction, and yeah, it is a whole thing. So on June 18th, 2023, in the waters of the North Atlantic off the coast of Newfoundland, Paul Henri Nargolet and 5 other crew members boarded the manned deep-sea submersible Titan and began a descent towards the most famous shipwreck in history, the Titanic. Mere hours later, the world learned the Titan's surface support ship had lost contact with the submersible and waited with bated breath for further news of the crew's plight. Ultimately, everyone's worst fears were confirmed. The Titan had suffered a catastrophic implosion under the tremendous weight of the ocean's depth. All 5 crew members, including Nargolet, died. I'm just going to say, there isn't any way to survive a collapse down there, because even if it's like somehow opened gently, which is not a thing, the pressure down there's so much water pressing down that it would just smush you, right? So yeah, ultimately everyone's worst fears were confirmed. Yeah. Decedent Nargolet was known worldwide as Mr. Titanic, a charismatic and beloved adventurer and a legend in the diving community. Nargolet had participated in 37 dives to the wreckage of the Titanic, the most of any diver worldwide over the course of his storied career. He was part of the first expedition to visit Titanic in 1987, shortly after its location was discovered, and had supervised the salvage of innumerable Titanic artifacts. He was the director of underwater research at RMS Titanic, which owns the salvage rights to the sunken ship. In the diving community, Paul Henri Nargolet, or PH as he was often known, I'm just going to call him PH for now. Thank you, that's very convenient, was synonymous with the Titanic. Now, can I say something that is a little bit horrible? PH, Mr. Titanic, was he was so much a fan of the Titanic that he might have actually. I see Nagiole. Okay, he was so much a fan of the Titanic that it might actually be a situation where if you asked him what he wanted to do with his with his remains when he passed, I think he might have said, I would love to be buried at the Titanic. I would like to be, so now I don't know. I'm just guessing. But the thing is you can't, right? They will not let you be buried at the Titanic unless there is an accident. I hope, if he's out there, looking at anything like this, and I'm not really a religious guy or anything, but maybe that's some comfort, a little. I don't know. I don't know. It's kind of a dark thought, but it's just a thought that came to my head. So, yeah. Decedent Nargiole was also an employee of defendant OceanGate Incorporated, a deep-sea diving and submersible company that designed and built Titan for the purpose of repeatedly voyaging to the Titanic. Not so good on the repeated. So Decedent served as a crew member aboard the Titan. His job was to guide other crew members and to assist with navigation through the Titanic wreckage, which he knew so well, i.e., he was the guide. He was how to, he's the guy who knew the place, right? So yeah, this is like hiring a guide who actually knows the place. There's not a lot of people who know their way around the Titanic. So OceanGate was founded by Richard Stockton Rush, an eccentric and self-styled innovator in the deep-sea diving industry. As detailed herein, OceanGate, Rush, and the remaining defendants designed, constructed, and operating Titan in almost every way in a manner outside the norms of the diving community and industry, driven by Rush's apparent obsession with being remembered for innovation alongside such luminaries as Steve Jobs and Elon Musk. So basically they're trying to present him here as like some sort of crazy mad scientist, right? Now, keep in mind, in litigation, all of these things are sort of allegations and shade, as Emily puts it. You can say pretty much whatever you want about people, and I'm just gonna say, like, the Titan thing went as well as Elon Musk's rebrand of Twitter. The thing is that Elon Musk's rebrand of Twitter has not caused any deaths that I'm aware of, right? So, to my knowledge, nobody has died of Twitter versus X. So, yeah. All right. Decedent may have died doing what he loved to do, but his death and the death of the other Titan crew members was wrongful. The catastrophic implosion that claimed his life was due directly to the persistent carelessness, recklessness, and negligence of OceanGate, Rush, and other defendants in their design, construction, and operation of Titan. Moreover, OceanGate, Rush, and the other defendants were warned repeatedly by multiple deep-sea diving experts and engineers about the potentially fatal consequences of their choices and actions. Defendants did not heed those warnings, but rather appear to have been increasingly motivated over time to ignore them. Worse, in many instances, Rush concealed dangers of which he was aware, specifically providing only information to his crew, only certain information to his crew and the public at large. The warnings proved prescient. Decedent's death, I'm not going to keep trying to pronounce his name because I'm going to get it wrong every time, was a tragic but eminently preventable occurrence. I like the way this is written so far, right? I like the way this is written. This is well done. The other thing is just sometimes in life, you might be in a situation where you are doing some kind of safety conscious, thing, right? I do fireworks, right? I do fireworks sometimes. I'm not in charge of the fireworks, but I do fireworks sometimes. But like maybe you are doing, maybe you're driving on a long distance drive, right? Maybe you're, so I'm just going to say, if somebody tells you that something is unsafe to do, you had better be sure that what you're doing is safe. Now I'm going to sidetrack here. Just a little sidetracky. I just took my car to the mechanic. And the reason why is because my wife and I are going on a road trip soon. We're going out. We're gonna go camping. We're gonna do all the things, right? And so we're gonna take my car, which is the nicer of the cars for a long road trip. But one of the things that my car had developed a squeak in the steering wheel. Now it's not like cars do this when they get older, right? The steering wheel. It doesn't bother me that much. I'm able to ignore the squeak when I'm driving. You know who isn't able to ignore the squeak when I'm driving? Mrs. Runkle. Um, Mrs. Runkle, you can see her every time we're in the car and we turn the wheel and it goes squeak. You can see her like cringe a bit. So, I said before we go on the road trip, I'm getting the squeak fixed because I love Mrs. Runkle and I do not want her to suffer. So anyway, they opened up the steering wheel to fix the squeak, and in the process of opening up the steering wheel, the wiring in the steering wheel, all of that important stuff, was a little corroded and broke free. So now they have to replace all the wiring in the steering wheel because it was disintegrating. And I was like, is it such a big deal? But the problem is that it doesn't allow for the horn, which is actually essential safety equipment. But the other thing is that like there was other, issues with like the brake lines. And they're like, we can get away with not fixing the brake lines right now. And I'm like, fix the brake lines, dudes. We're going on a long distance trip. Fix the brake lines. Because the last thing I want is to be in a situation where a mechanic told me there might be an issue with the brake line and we didn't fix the brake line. Because then if I get into an accident that involves the brake line, I could have been in some shit. And I will just say, you don't want to be in a situation where suddenly you got no brakes. No brakes would be, you don't want that as a surprise, right? So it went from they're going to squirt some grease into this thing to fix it for, fairly little to now it's like $2,000 in fixes, which is not that bad. It's not that bad for like it's a car that's more than a decade old. It's an old Buick. So yeah. All right. So, yeah, but I mean, if you're doing scaffolding and somebody says, "Hey, I don't think that scaffold is safe," you fix it. you fix it. People saying, "Did I miss Janet coverage?" Not yet. No. So, yeah. The other thing is I trust my mechanic because my mechanic's pretty good and hasn't tried to rip me off. So I like my mechanic. I actually found a good one. All right. Jurisdiction. This is an action within the maritime jurisdiction of this court. This claim is maintained under the Jones Act and the General Maritime Law of the United States. So, yeah. Parties. Plaintiff Richard Ortoli is domiciled in Miami, Florida, and he's been duly appointed as the administrator CTA of the estate of Paul-Henri Louis-Emile Nargiolet by the Dutchess County Surrogates Court in the state of New York. Plaintiff Richard Ortoli maintains this suit for the benefit of beneficiaries allowed to recover on a cause of action stemming from the death of decedent Nargiolet. I just want to note here, if you die, you can't sue as you because you're dead, right? You can't like come back from the grave to sue. So, but lots of lawsuits are brought on behalf of dead people. It happens all the time. If you're sitting there and you are driving along and you decide to you didn't get your brakes fixed, you drove over somebody and you smushed them, that person's estate is going to sue you. So this happens all the time. Who sues you? The executor. I'm just going to address this one. Have Ian and Rob fallen out? I feel like I'm missing something in the chat. We have not fallen out. Ian and Rob are great friends. Ian and Rob, no falling out. Rob is moving. So I'm running a stream at his usual time. If Rob was able to stream today, I would be on his stream. So, yeah. Defendant OceanGate is a domestic corporation doing business in the state of Washington. Defendant, the estate of R.S. Rush III, refers to the estate of R.S. Rush, Richard Stockton Rush III. That's also a pretty awesome name. Why are they suing the estate? Well, because you can also sue dead people, right? You can also sue dead people. So let's say I'm driving along. I haven't bothered getting my brakes fixed. I am obviously negligent in not getting my brakes fixed. Let's say I had the mechanic shop saying, like, you can't drive this car. This car is a death trap. And I get in it. I take it on the highway. My brakes fail. I crash into a busload full of nuns, and the nuns die. And I also die, right? Well, they're going to sue my estate because they're going to be like, hey, that guy's dead. It's real sad, but also he's an a-hole. So we're suing his estate. You can't actually sue like his dead body, but yeah. All right. What if Google said your brakes are fine? All right. Defendant Tony Nissen is a natural person of majority age and is former director of engineering at OceanGate Incorporated. I'm betting that he is quietly scrubbing out like director of engineering at OceanGate off his resume and is just like leaving it as a he's just like, I have a mysterious gap in my resume and I hope people are going to assume that that during that gap in my resume that I was in prison. Because I feel like prison would be a better resume entry than OceanGate Incorporated at this point, or especially director of engineering at OceanGate Incorporated. You're just like, I was in prison for like sex things, and that's still better than OceanGate engineer. Defendant Electro Impact Incorporated is a domestic corporation. Defendant Janicki Industries is a domestic corporation. Defendant Hydrospace Group Incorporated is a foreign corporation. Okay. Venue, one or more defendants resides in King County, Washington. Yeah. Facts and general allegations. Plaintiff Richard Ortoli has been duly appointed as the administrator CTA of the estate of PH by the Dutchess County. Okay. Brings this lawsuit as the result of the death of PH. Survived by his spouse and his children. So who's going to get the money if he wins? His spouse and his kids, right? That's what this is really about. And you're wondering, hey, why isn't there an insurance company on this file? Do you really think an insurance company was going to insure this thing? You can't have an insurance company on the file and also ignore all of the safety warnings, because your insurance company will insist that you follow the safety warnings. All right. Ocean Gate was formed by Rush for the purpose of designing, constructing, and operating manned deep-sea submersibles, including Titan, primarily for the purpose of diving to and exploring the wreckage of the Titanic. Rush actively cultivated an image as a maverick genius of the deep-sea diving world. On several occasions, Rush described himself as an industry disruptor and compared himself to Steve Jobs or Elon Musk. I feel like he is an industry disruptor at this point, in that everybody who's in the industry of deep sea diving is now like, yeah, you have screwed up our industry. He's not a disruptor in the way he's hoping. He's just like, he's ruined an industry. He isn't like overtaking an industry. We're going to talk about another person who thinks they're an industry disruptor a little bit later. Somebody with horns. Rush seemed to proudly flaunt convention and the rules of the industry, claiming that many industry rules regarding submersible design didn't make engineering sense to him. Hindsight's looking real good on that one. Indeed, in an interview prior to the Titan's implosion, Rush even went so far to say to journalist David Pogue that at some point, safety is just pure waste. Oh my God, that is the kind of quote that is built for a lawsuit. That is the kind of quote that your opposing side in a lawsuit is just like, thank you. This is the moment when, if you're researching, somebody says, is that a quote? Yes, that's a quote. Sometimes, especially as a junior lawyer, you will be given like a pile of documents to go through and mine for anything useful. And sometimes this can be awful. I have, as a junior lawyer, when I was like wee baby lawyer, I got handed wiretap transcripts. And the wiretap transcripts were 3 bankers boxes of wiretap transcripts, which is actually not a lot of them. But wiretap transcripts suck to read, because think of most of the conversations you have on your phone and think about how interesting those conversations actually are to a third person, which is not very. Like, let's say I call Mrs. Runkle up and I'm like, hey, what time are you leaving work? She's like, usual time. And I say, cool. What do you want for dinner? It's going to be fast because I'm streaming. And she's like, I don't care. You want to just order in? And I'm like, yeah, I am feeling that lazy. So Greek. She's like, yeah, Greek is fine. Greek is good. We'll eat some Greek salad in the backyard. And I say, cool. See you when you get home. Love you. Bye. Click. that conversation is not super exciting if you are a third person reading this. Now, let me tell you the other thing of reading wiretap transcripts, which is that sometimes when people are talking about Greek, they're not talking about salad. I don't know if you know what I mean, but if you know what I mean, then you're probably going, oh shit, he said that. So sometimes you will have wiretap transcripts of people's sexy talk. And some people get really into sexy talk in their phone calls. And so I have had to read through transcripts of like two criminals talking about like their sexy times that they're hoping to have and that they're wanting to engage in. And sometimes in incredible detail. Very, very specific sometimes. So, now, here is the worst thing. The worst thing is that sometimes the sexy time talk is mixed in together with the crime talk. So it'll be like, oh, and what are you going to do with that tongue? And then it's like, oh, I'm gonna this. And by the way, also, do you have the drugs? And you're like, why are you tongue and drugs in the same conversation? Because if they were only doing the sex talk, then you could at least say, okay, we're just gonna, like, this is a sexy time conversation. I can skip it. But instead, so often they're like sexy time with like murder or sexy time with like, you know, criminal conspiracy. And so you're having to read through somebody's like discussion of what happened the last time they boned down, because you need to know what admissions they made and what crimes they're doing. And oh god, like, yeah. So transcripts suck, but you go through it and you're mining all of this, you know, and you're saying like, wait, I forgot where we got here. You're mining all of this for like the one thing that is going to help you, and when you find it, it is like the sky opens up and a ray of sunlight illuminates you, and there's a, you know, the chorus of angels, because you're like, yes, I got to find this thing. And you get to go and you're like, I spent 6 hours reading through bullshit just to find this one perfect sentence. And at some point, safety is just pure waste, or just as pure waste, is one of those statements that is just like, everything is worth it after I've been digging through all of this stuff. So to Rush, the more stuff you've broken, the more innovative you've been. Okay. Rush's devil-may-care approach to safety and obsessive quest for innovation above all else appears to have permeated the design process behind Titan. People are like, oh, yeah. I was part of a doc review team and had to read XXX rated emails written by two EEs, both married, but not to each other. Made my toes curl. Yep. I can tell you I have I've seen some stuff. The other thing that is awful, by the way, when you're doing criminal law, is when they download your client's phone. Because when they download your client's phone, they take all the stuff off it. All of the stuff. And sometimes the stuff off of it can be pretty god awful. So, as an example, I got in disclosure from one of my clients' phones. He was Googling, how do I put this? He was Googling unusual things about balloon nuts. And he was downloading pictures to compare with the home photos he was taking to determine if the thing that was wrong with his particular Taco Bell stand south of the border was what was shown in the pictures he was downloading. So there was a lot of pictures, very close up pictures of his let's say the window to the soul. And there was something very wrong with it. And like very wrong with it. And I don't know what was wrong with it, but I was just like, why? Why do I have to see? Like, why are you sending me these pictures? Just tell me that they're relevant. So, yeah, it was pretty, yeah. So, by the way, if your sixth base is starting to disintegrate, and you take pictures of it, please securely delete those photos for the, for the sanity of your lawyer. So, yeah. Yeah. All right. Rush and Ocean Gate's innovative, scare quotes, but dangerous design. It was, I see people saying prolapse. It was not a prolapse. It was something else. There were colors that should not have been in that photo.
Okay, guys,
let's go with that.
This is getting a little.
So, Titan's carbon fiber hull.
Baily,
Other than Titan, no commercial manned submersible has ever suffered an implosion. Only early military submarines have done so. Other than Titan, modern commercial manned submarines for deep sea exploration are generally made from titanium. Titanium is an exceptionally strong metal that strengthens under repeated exposure to high stress. That is, with each dive, a titanium submersible can actually increase in hull strength. I didn't know that. That's cool. Science. Science. Rush believed the titanium was unnecessarily heavy. Now, I'm just not I guess heavy is a bad thing when you're trying to come back up. I'm like, why is heavy such a bad thing? So, we'll talk about waiver. We'll talk about waiver when we get there. We'll talk about that. Yes, I can tell you nobody wants that. So, Titan's hull at Rush's direction was made from carbon fiber, which Rush called a great material and better than titanium. In contrast to titanium, carbon fiber breaks down over time under pressure. Rush acknowledged the possibility for catastrophic failure where you have imperfections in the carbon fiber structure. Nothing you want to hear, nothing you want to hear about, like, being, hundreds of feet or hundreds of meter underwater should involve catastrophic failure, right? So, yeah. Now, titanium is a cool material. I am partially titanium. I am partially made of titanium, so I'm fond of titanium. Carbon fiber can go to hell because I don't think I have any carbon fiber in me. So, noting that carbon fiber makes a crackling noise under excessive stress, Rush proposed and installed on Titan an acoustic safety system to detect such crackling. According to Rush's thinking, the crackling noise would then warn the submersible's pilot to begin an ascent. In fact, Rush portrayed this safety system, which is nothing more than the detection of a possibly imminent failure of the carbon fiber hull, in a manner in which carbon fiber is known to fail under pressure, as an advanced feature unique to the Titan in OceanGate's promotional materials. Now, I'm just wondering if they tested that, because if you're testing an acoustic safety system, then really you need to know how much time this buys you, right? You need to know, does this buy you enough time to actually know that you like to actually get up? Because think about it this way. Let's say you take a car and you're going to drive this car on the highway, right? And you decide that you are going to spray paint all of the windows black. So now you can't see anything, right? And so, and you decide you're going to add an acoustic safety system because the sound of metal impacting something is going to make a particular distinctive noise where you're going to hear the sound of metal crunching. This is actually a terrible safety system, because if you're driving this vehicle, by the time you hear the metal crunching, you are already probably dying. So does the crackling of the carbon fiber mean you've got 6 hours and you've got plenty of time to go back up? Or does it mean you got 60 seconds and you don't even have enough time to write a holograph will? You don't even have enough time to scrawl all to wife on the back of a tractor bumper. So did they do a bunch of testing testing to failure? Because if not, then I got some concerns. So Titan was and remains the only submersible ever produced with a carbon fiber hull. It'll probably be the only one ever produced with a carbon fiber hull for a long time. So in addition to being constructed of carbon fiber, Titan's hull was cylindrical with hemispherical ends. This also differed from traditional submersible design and construction. Deep-sea submersibles prior to Titan have been spherical in shape, as spheres are known to be capable of withstanding the extreme pressure of deep-sea environments. Spheres are the most compacted, shape, in the sense of their volume is. So yeah, they're going to be better at withstanding that. All right. So Titan's electronic systems. Titan was piloted using a mass-produced Logitech video game controller normally used with a PlayStation or Xbox, rather than a controller custom-made for Titan's design and operation. I'm just going to say, I don't actually think that this is so bad overall. I don't think that this is so terrible, because video game controllers are actually pretty legit. They're pretty good. For a while, there were video game controllers that were under export restrictions, so they couldn't be sent to other countries, because they actually felt that the controllers were too good as a means to control a missile. Right now, if you go to Ukraine, there are drones that are being used to blow up $1 million aircraft and so forth, that are very similar to video game controllers, or are actually flown with video game controllers. So I don't see the huge problem with that part. Now we're going to get to the bad part. Moreover, the controller was Bluetooth rather than hardwired. Why would you make it Bluetooth? I would have that on a wire, because, yeah. The other thing is I would have had 3 extra controllers in that thing. Titan also had only one button for power within its main chambers. The remainder of its controls for lights, ballast, and so on, and gauges for depth, oxygen level, and so forth, were touchscreen. Okay. I mean, if the touchscreen fails, that's a problem. Or if it like gets wet. There's a certain thing for like simplicity here. Rush stated that Titan was to other submersibles what the iPhone was to the BlackBerry. Initially a downgrade. As with an iPhone, however, none of the controls or gauges would work without a constant source of power and a wireless signal. Titan's hip contemporary wireless electronic systems, which differed entirely from any previously designed submersible, were conceived and constructed by an electrical engineering team at OceanGate, composed largely of either current students or recent graduates of nearby Washington State University. These were engineers with virtually no real-world experience and no prior exposure to the deep-sea diving industry. I seem to recall that he was interviewed, and he basically said that that was a good thing, right? Peg says, but how would it get wet? Somebody gets ocean sick and throws up. Somebody sneezes on it. Any sort of vehicle, you have to assume, like, you've got to design it for the possibility that somebody yarps into it, right? Any sort of life-saving system, you've got to decide that somebody, like, what happens if somebody, throws up in it or coughs in it or, like, drops it or, whatever, right? Yeah. And Michael J. Money says, the U.S. Navy spent tens of thousands of dollars on submarine controls. Then they discovered the $60 Xbox 360 controller was obviously much cheaper, but also a hell of a lot better. And the thing is that the U.S. Navy spent tens of thousands of dollars on the submarine controls. Xbox spent millions on Xbox sent millions on game controllers. And the other thing about a $60 Xbox controller is at the end of the day, you can have like a box of spares, right? That's one of the really big advantages of that is you can have a ton of spares. So, yeah. Defendant Tony Nissen, OceanGate's director of engineering, offered to hire at least several of these engineers as interns while they were still students, when the students offered potential solutions to challenges faced by OceanGate and described by Nissen during a tour of OceanGate's facility. The first such student hired had, by 2023, become the lead electrical engineer at OceanGate at the time of the Titan implosion, despite only being a 2017 graduate and having 6 or fewer years of relevant work experience. Whew. Oh, yeah, this is the other thing about borrowing a game controller. They're also like trying to use them for things like surgeries and so forth because the people who spend all that time gaming actually now have experience with your controllers, right? So, Titan's plexiglass viewport. Titan's plexiglass viewport. That sentence just makes me go, oh my God, what the hell? Part of Titan's design, like other submersibles, included a viewport through which the underwater environment could be viewed directly by occupants. Because viewports must be constructed from a different and transparent material, they present design and engineering challenges that differ from a vessel's hull, i.e. they are a really common place where something might fail and kill everybody, right? The Titan rests on the ocean's floor at a depth of approximately 3,800 meters. The atmospheric pressure at that depth is an immense 6,000 pounds per square inch. Every single aspect of Titan's exterior had to be engineered and built to withstand at least that amount of constant pressure while diving. The exact specifications of Titan's porthole as of June 18, 2023 are not presently known to plaintiff, but we're going to find out in discovery. We're going to find out. However, based on documents from 2018, the plexiglass viewport on Titan at that time was rated for only approximately 1,300 meters, 1/3 of the depth at which the Titanic lay. Those same documents indicated that OceanGate was unwilling to spend the money required to design and construct a plexiglass viewport, which would be sufficient based on accepted standards to withstand the amount of pressure at the depths of the Titanic. It's good for 1,300, so clearly it's also got to be good for 3,800 meters. Those are the same number, right? Holy shit. Holy shit, right? When they rate things for safety, they rate it for like where it's gonna fail. Titan's use of disparate materials, i.e., when you have two different materials, they have to join to each other somehow, right? They have to connect somehow, right? And so those connection points are also a weak point. They're also a problem. Titan had a carbon fiber hull, but also employed titanium parts connected to that hull. Its viewport, as alleged above, also connected to its hull and was made from plexiglass. These different materials at various points on the Titan were necessarily joined together and sealed. Those seals were critical to Titan's integrity and safety. Above all else, it was necessary for Titan to remain pressurized, airtight, and watertight. Yeah, no kidding, because if it's not airtight, good luck. However, at least one expert has pointed out that these three materials are very dissimilar and have different coefficients of expansion and compression. What does that mean? Well, let's say you take two different materials, right? And you heat them up or you cool them off. Those things may expand or contract at different speeds and different amounts. And so what this can mean is that you can end up with issues around that. So as an example here, the Canadian toonies. I don't have a toonie handy. Oh, wait, I'm wrong. I do have a toonie handy. I'm going to embiggen. This is a Canadian toonie. It's a $2 coin. And as you can see, it's made of two separate pieces of metal. So one of the problems these coins had when they initially came on the market was that if they got real hot or real cold, you could end up with the inner portion of this toonie popping out and separating. They were actually redesigned to prevent that from happening. So if you've got a toonie that is actually split apart like that, it is now a collector's item because the new ones are not so much on that. So this is something you got to consider. Now, it's one thing if you design a $2 coin and and the coin fails, right? If the coin fails and the center pops out, it's like, shit. My coin broke. Whoops. But if you are in a deep sea submersible and the window pops out, then suddenly you have, suddenly you got a big problem, right? You got a very short-term problem, but a big problem. All right. When joined or sealed together, the material's different coefficients of expansion and compression can lead to loosening or separation when subjected to numerous repeated cycles in depth, as would have been the case after Titan's previous dives over its lifetime. So Russian OceanGate ignored the safety concerns of employees and others. Now, one of the others who actually raised concerns, and I haven't read through this, I'm wondering if they're going to be raised. One of the others who raised concerns was James Cameron. So there is a distant possibility that James Cameron could end up being called as a witness. And yeah, this is the story of the toonie. The $1 coin has a loon on it and was officially supposed to be called the Canadian loon. The problem is that nobody wanted to call the loon a loon, so people called them loonies instead of the loon. That resulted in the $2 coin then being called the toonie because Canadians have a sense of humor. So David Lockridge was hired by OceanGate as its head of marine operations and chief submersible pilot. In this position, Lockridge was ultimately responsible for ensuring the safety of all crew and clients. Fail. Fail. Somebody says, what is a loon? It's a kind of bird. In 2017, as Titan was in development and prepared for testing, Lockridge voiced concerns about Titan's designs. His concerns were dismissed, including by Russian Nissan, allegedly because Lockridge was not an engineer. In early 2018, following an inspection of Titan prior to trials in the Bahamas, Lockridge wrote a detailed report containing his observations and safety concerns, including concerns regarding the integrity of Titan's carbon fiber hull, for which he requested a complete scan. By the way, I would love to be doing more work in the Bahamas.
Oh, she's giving nothing to you.
So, yeah. Infuriated.
We're pausing.
Are you liking your loving?
Oh, look at this. Look at this. Isn't she just a cute little baby? Say, oh my God, I'm such a cutie. Oh,
Hey.
I need a fan, y'all. Oh my God, I'm so hot.
Hey, darling. How are you?
Let's see if she'll play with this. Hold on, guys. I almost cut us off. I need a break.
Hi. What's this? What's that?
Uh-oh. Okay, let's see how this happens. Come around me. Uh-oh. We have the one. Now, this is the one we rescued, 3 months ago?
No, 4 or 5.
She's like, I'm out.
Well, hello. You want to say hi to everybody?
Oh, no.
Okay, I'll put you back. Hi, sweetie. Oh, Sensei want to say hi? Sensei, come here.
Oh, nobody wants to be around her poor baby. Sarah, can you take her? Are you eating?
We're about to eat.
Okay, I'll just put her over here. She's doing fine. Okay, guys, I have a question. This type of interpreting is very brutal, especially by myself. And the interpreter had to go because she's got a job early in the morning. Are y'all okay if we no longer interpret this? Because I'm exhausted. Oh, I know my little Sensei. Come here, Sensei. Up. Come here. Up. I don't have Kitty. Come on. Up. I know she's right there. Come here. Come here. Oh, you're my good girl. Yes, I know. There's Kitty.
That's a little baby.
Oh, she goes, I'm out. Move. Sensei goes, I'm out.
Where are you going?
Where are you running to? You can go in there. So what is y'all's... Oh. I mean, if somebody here needs it, I will keep... If you're here and you need interpreting, please text or make a comment so I can see yes or no. If you're not for hard of hearing, I need to stop because I'm really, really tired. Sneaky sigh. Karate Cat Mom. Out and about with Diane Haley Mouse. LA is our newest member, y'all. She is our newest member. Lexicott, thank you so much for joining Braxton. You are awesome. Ronnie, you're amazing. I hope I didn't miss anybody. Take care of your sound nose not to mess with babies because the mother protects you. But I have a feeling I'm going to be up all night with this little one. I think she's about ready to have another bottle. We haven't had a full one yet, but about every hour I'm letting her. She's got to learn how to nurse on it. Um, I think she's 3 weeks. She's got a little. I'm tired just watching her. Yeah. That's why I wish I had enough to pay Miss Diane. Let me see your teefies. Oh, she barely breaking gum. Her canines are out, but the others are still barely breaking. I would say she's 3 weeks. I'd say 3 weeks. So I think as much as I want to keep going, I think it's best that I stop for the night and be prepared for tomorrow night. That is important to me. So I have a meal. I haven't eaten all day. Really, a meal. I had 2 little chicken strips and a part of a granola bar, and I think that's all I've had. Yeah. Yep. At one time, LA, I was an animal groomer, and during kitten season, I had 43 kittens. I had one of those big cages that had 9 big sections. You could have a big dog in it. And I had them in there by litters. People, I'd show up to my shop, and there'd be a box with holes. I knew there were babies in it. Most of them, I only had one mama with babies. She birthed them there. So very versed on taking care of babies. Aw. I do have a scale. We keep weights. Aw. LA, do I need to sign for you, or can you hear me good enough? Because if I see LA, I'll sign. I'm fine with that. Do you know my story? Oh, you're gonna bathe yourself? Oh, did you give me? She's playing with me, y'all. Look at this. Hi. Hi. So, LA, do I need to sign for you? I grew up hearing, and due to medicine and sickness, I became deaf over the last 20 years. But the last 5 years, I'm now 100% deaf without my hearing aids. I have to have hearing aids to have a little bit of sound. That's why I can talk so good. Oh, I think you're going to sleep with me tonight. We're just going to cuddle up in bed. We're just going to curl up in bed. I have another cat, a cat at home. She's black and white. She's had a lot of babies. She's a good grandma. We'll see what happens. Yeah. She's got a little white spot right there on her back. Looks like boink boink. Look like a paintbrush hit her. Look at that. That's interesting. Look. Oh, okay. Okay. The baby. Okay, guys, we're gonna say goodnight. Thank you, everybody. Everybody who has been so fabulous. Tomorrow night, Saturday, fun night. I'm gonna be in my pajamas. Um, come join us. Love to have you. Thank you for watching. Blessings. Have a wonderful sleep. Have a wonderful Saturday.
I'm going to get up in the morning and go get my coffee from my sponsor. What? Okay. There you go. I'm going to go get coffee from my sponsor, and I'm going to have a good day. I'll see you tomorrow night, please, 7 o'clock my time. And I know that we are going to have fun. I don't know. I might get a little silly. God only knows. I'm going to get some. Pamela, thanks for watching. I didn't know you were here. Thank you, love. You have a kitty that's all black. Aww. Love you, LA. This one's getting ready to start walking. I'm going to go find a place where she can exercise her legs. Good night, everybody.